Summer is here, and that means a new Pixar movie. And listen, there are a lot of eyes on Inside Out 2 right now. It has been a bumpy couple of years for Pixar, to put it lightly, between a bunch of their recent movies as of late just being dumped to Disney Plus streaming to the recent layoffs. It has been a tough time for them. And this is even more so the truth right now in light of some of Pete Docter's more brain dead comments as of late, but that's a separate discussion for another time. I really liked the first Inside Out, but I also really felt like it never needed a proper sequel or anything. The story more or less felt like a closed loop, and I didn't really know what else you were gonna do with it, but hey, here we are. And you know what? I ended up liking it quite a bit. It's a lot more of a toned down movie, and I know that maybe sounds like I'm underselling it, but I think that ultimately leads to it feeling a lot more genuine, if that makes any sense to me. Like, I think the first movie has a lot of these really big emotional moments that, if I'm thinking back on it now, almost sort of feel like they're maybe trying to manipulate your heartstrings more so than tug on them in like a genuine manner. But this movie scales a lot of that way back. It doesn't undersell what it's trying to do, but it also doesn't, I think, overinflate the importance of what it's portraying, if that makes sense. I'm trying to speak vaguely here without spoiling the movie for you guys. This is totally a me problem, but I've always had like a very strange feeling about movies with concept like these, like this or Osmosis Jones. It's always weirded me out to think of myself as this like flesh mech for tiny sentient beings that happen to live inside me. I don't know. It gives me the heebie-jeebies for some reason. The plot for this one more or less picks up not too long after the second one, where Riley is now pretty adjusted to her life in San Francisco. But just as she's finally settled in, she likes her school, she's on a hockey team, she has friends that she really likes, she hits puberty and she has to deal with all the newfound emotions that come with that. And in a nice little callback to the end of the first movie, that puberty button like literally goes off in this one. It was nice to see something that started off as like a gag towards the end of the first movie come back as like a legitimate plot point in this. It was like a nice little callback that I really enjoyed. All the new emotion characters are great. Anxiety in particular really was a standout, and I don't think I realized just what a commanding presence she'd have in the movie. And in many ways, it feels like this is just as much her movie as it is Joy's. And they make great foils to each other. Anxiety basically is the inverse of Joy in a way that even Sadness wasn't in the last movie. And it's just a really, really interesting character because she's antagonistic without being villainous. And I really liked the way that they butt heads. It was really, really, really well done. Listen, I know that there's a ton of discourse about celebrity voice actors and them taking roles from actual voice actors, but Maya Hawke does such a good job in this role. She really disappears into it, and I didn't think of Anxiety as voiced by Maya Hawke. I just thought of Anxiety as her own character throughout the entire movie. You know, with Joy, you hear Amy Poehler and you know that that's Amy Poehler. And this isn't any shade to her, but like, you can't help but know, hey, that's the SNL lady. But that's totally not the case with Maya Hawke. She just goes away into that character so well, and the performance is so chaotic and fun, and I really hope they like maybe end up doing some more shorts with her or something, because I would love to see more of the character. A problem that I had with the first movie that I also have with this movie, and honestly, if I'm thinking back on it with a lot of kids in other Pixar movies, is that all the children can feel a little like, hello fellow kidsy, when they speak. Sometimes when I'm listening to them, I'm just like, that's not how real children talk. Like, I remember being a kid and I didn't speak that way, and when I'm around other kids, I'm like, they don't speak that way. There's there's this very strange sense of sanitization to the children characters in Pixar movies, with the exception of things like Luca and Turning Red, which I think are probably, in my mind at least, the most accurate feeling children in Pixar movies. Like, when I think of the girls in Turning Red, that really felt like an actual group of middle school girls, and like their weird chaos energy and their weird gremlin energy. And I think that's part of why that movie did so well, is it feels so genuine. In Inside Out 2, Riley definitely feels like an adult's ideal of what a teenager is like. Like, she has problems, but the problems aren't that intense. You know, she's maybe going through a phase, but she's not going through it too much. And it all just kind of leads to Riley, I think, as a character, probably not getting explored as fully as she could. And, you know, I think that makes Pete Docter's comments that I alluded to a little while ago even more upsetting, because it's like, oh man, like, what are you talking about? You had 2 movies that like totally nailed this tone that I feel like you're trying to attempt with this one. It's important to note that Pete Docter didn't direct this one like he did the first one, but I digress. I was also pretty bummed to see Sadness get sidelined the way that she did. It genuinely felt like they really weren't sure what to do with her in this movie. And I mean, I guess Riley just has the issue of sadness and depression just solved now, but I sort of get it. They wanted a chance to highlight the other emotions, like anger, disgust, and fear all have way more of a presence in this movie than they did in the last one. They go on the journey with joy in this one, which is pretty cool. There's also ennui, embarrassment, envy, anxiety that they have to deal with as well. So I get it. Like, in terms of meaningful character arcs that they could do or have for everyone, it's tough when, you know, someone's gonna have to fall by the wayside, and Sadness ultimately did get a lot of development in the last movie, and it just seemed like they maybe didn't know what to deal with her. But I love Sadness. She's so cute. So it was a little bit of a bummer to see her like just sort of get sidelined like this. Overall, I really liked Inside Out 2. I don't think it's gonna make my top 10 movies of the year list or anything, but it feels good to see a Pixar movie and see it doing well too, especially after the weird bumpy road that they've been on. You know, Elemental was ultimately successful, but it took a while to get there and a lot of word of mouth. And the less said about Lightyear, the better. What an awful movie. So it's nice to see them back to form. I wouldn't say I left, you know, oh my god, amazed like I did in, say, like a Toy Story 3 or a WALL-E, but I left really happy. Like, it was a very sweet, nice time at the movies, and I'm hoping that this is them dipping their toe back in, and that, you know, after this, more and more success will come their way and things will sort of stabilize for them. I think if you liked this movie, you're really gonna like this one. And if you didn't like the first one, I still feel like you might like this one. I think a lot of my problems with the first movie are sort of addressed by this one. It's just the toning down of things that I think just leads to this movie feeling a lot smarter. It's hard to talk about without spoiling things, but overall, I had a really good time. It's nice to see Pixar have a win, it feels like, especially after so much bad news, but we'll have to see what the future has for them. I'm really excited about Elio? However you say it. I'm really excited for that one. It seems like it's part of that crop of movies that got made during the Turning Red Luca era. So I hope it's good. I hope it's like those movies, because I really liked those movies. But who knows with this weird new edict that, you know, Bob Iger and Pete Docter are trying to enact over there. But I hope it's good, and I hope this is a big win for Pixar, and I'm excited to see what else comes from them.